we have a little trial hub basically where they can go click through a bunch of videos that train them on kind of the core features. Every once in a while, you'll get someone who watches all 10 videos 100%. That person's insanely engaged, and you should reach out to them right away.
Many tech companies now rely on a no-touch sales model that's built on the idea of a product-qualified lead. They use inbound and outbound marketing to drive prospects to a free trial or even a free product, getting them into their solution without ever having to speak with sales. And once they're in the product, they track their activities and pass the most active users over to sales for a full demo of their solution. But what if they could track not only engagement in the actual product, but engagement in supporting content that explains different features, provides how-to expertise, and showcases some of the more advanced capabilities? Could they identify their most engaged prospects faster? And maybe even qualify those leads who aren't actively using the features, but are spending hours self-educating? Welcome to Video in Focus, the show that explores the expanding role of video in modern marketing and sales, and how to build better relationships through purposeful video content. I'm your host, Tyler Lessard, and today we're speaking with Dustin Tysick, VP of Marketing and Growth at Jostle. Dustin's team has been using video to generate demand and to differentiate themselves from juggernauts like Microsoft and Facebook. And they're not only using video to attract new leads, but to help them educate and qualify free trial users faster than ever.
So we're about 75 people now, so small-ish, but a pretty lean team. We're in the intranet space, which is often not the most exciting space historically, although it is a super competitive one. So our goal there is intranets are complex, the workplace is getting more and more complex, people are everywhere, files are everywhere. So for the first time, we actually want to bring simplicity to organizations. And that's kind of our principle around everything we build. And that's really our goal, is to just make life easier for our customers. So we're in that seat size. I'm on the marketing team here at Jostle. We use video quite a bit because we have to be a little bit crafty being in this crowded space with a lot of kind of big guns out there.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, because you guys are in the intranet space, which has been around since feels like the beginning of time.
Basically,
and, and there's a number of course, much bigger incumbents out there who have been doing this for many years, largely focused on the enterprise. So can you talk a bit about the market dynamics and what the big challenges you guys face being a relatively small and new entrant in a category that has sort of traditional legacy behind it?
Yeah, the traditional legacy is the key thing there, right? A lot of companies are stuck on SharePoint 2011 that they don't use, but it sits there and they're paying for it, right? And there's just that install base. So we do run up against that quite a bit. The other challenge as well is like Microsoft and Facebook are two of the competitors in the space with Workplace. And as you know, they have a lot of money and a lot of power. So because of that, we do have to get a little bit creative and actually spend time building out a brand, being successfully differentiated in this crowded space. I personally like the challenge. I think it's a lot of fun, but for sure, it's something we face every day.
So I expect you think about that a little bit as a mix of building brand and demand at the same time in this category, where you both need to differentiate yourself from from product wise, but also again compete with companies that are much more integrated in the market than you guys.
Yeah, and it's the thing too with generating interest in a space that historically people haven't had the best experience with.
Right.
Like that's kind of a gift and a curse, right? If you can do it, it's awesome. But some people you bring up internet and they run for the hills and they're like, no, I don't want to talk about that. That's the IT thing that stays in the closet. So it's fun. It's an interesting space.
So when you guys go to market, so to help our audience understand, what is your business model? Do you guys sell a large enterprise, account sort of seats? Do you guys sell small business freemium offers? How do you guys go to market, and how does that influence how you've started to structure your own marketing and demand programs?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are a company-wide product. So it's not like a point solution that you can sell to one department. So whether it's a 50-person company or a 5,000-person company, they roll us out to the entire organization.
Right.
So because of that, we have really focused on inbound and pulling in people who have an interest and maybe a project in place already in our space. Because as you can imagine, that's a difficult sell, right? A giant committee sell to start from nothing when there's no interest. So we are primarily inbound. That being said, we've also rolled out an outbound program that's having early success, using video, direct mail, a few more unique things to get us to stand out.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of where we're at now. And in general, target kind of mid-market, I'd say. 100 to 1,000-ish is kind of our sweet spot.
Got it. And then do you guys tend to sort of sell with a large upfront investment? Is it a long sales cycle, or is it something where you're sort of getting in with a smaller footprint and letting them build up as you go?
So it is a recurring contract paid up front, but
Hmm.
we don't have the typical implementation costs that a lot of people in the space have.
Right.
So we focus on being turnkey. So it's an initial investment in the sense that they pay for a year, but there's not that let's spend 100 grand in 6 months building this thing,
Right.
um, which is kind of a nice thing there to have, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So in this space, as you talk about this world of inbound and trying to attract those who
Mhm.
seem to be interested in what you guys are doing out there, how have you as a marketer seen that evolve over the last 3, 5, 10 years, whatever it happens to be, in
Yep.
terms of how you're running your inbound programs, but what seems to
Yeah.
be working and resonating with audiences?
Yeah, I think if you go back maybe 6, 7 years, inbound was new-ish.
Right.
It was the thing. You have a blog. If you can get traffic, you're going to be super successful. Now it's crazy competitive, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone's doing it, some better than others. But there's just this. There's so much attention on trying to get people to pay attention to you. So it really has just gotten more difficult, to be honest. So we have to be more creative. And compete with like even the B2C brands that are taking attention. So we have seen that shift where we've had a little more fun with it and a little less kind of the traditional corporate boring side of things.
Hmm.
Just because there's like everyone's after each individual's attention.
Yeah, we feel it, of course, as well, and probably
Yeah,
everybody watching or listening to this does as
for
well. Where
sure. Yeah,
it's harder than ever to get the attention, and then it's
yeah,
harder than ever to keep that attention
absolutely.
once you
Yeah.
have it. So how does that how has that influenced how you've grown out your inbound kind of content marketing team at Jostle? Are you sort of bringing in new skill sets that help you be a little bit more creative, a little bit different in terms of either the content messaging and styles that you're creating, or even the mediums that you're using?
A little bit on the what we're actually writing about and focusing on. So my team recently had a shift where we kind of flip people's roles. So now we run customer marketing and product marketing on my team, and they're very
Mm-hmm.
intertwined.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is like people don't want to hear about us bragging about our brand. It's
Yeah.
it's not interesting. They don't trust us. They don't trust marketing and salespeople. And we'd rather tell our customer stories anyways.
Yeah.
So that's one shift for sure, is we want to put our
Mm.
customers in the spotlight, show how they've been successful.
Yeah.
And that resonates with people. It's a legitimate proof point, and I think it builds trust. So that's been one shift for sure that we've seen. And then on the content side, video has been pretty important to us because it lets us have a little bit more fun. Like you can make
Yeah.
a witty little joke in a blog post and maybe someone reads it, maybe they're skimming it and they don't. But with video, you can actually do something that as they're scrolling through LinkedIn, it pops, it stands out. They then discover who you are and hopefully you build a relationship from there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit more about that. And I'd love to hear sort of how you and your team got going with video. You're still,
Hmm.
like you said, a relatively small organization, but I think you've done
Yep.
some really great things from what I've seen. So where did video kind of start within your organization, and how has it evolved over the last couple of years?
For sure. So it started probably similar to a lot of organizations where you do a quick little product tour video.
Right.
That's kind of the ground zero for video, right? Like everyone has that. A lot of people have an animated video. Those are kind of the two basis. So that's where we started as well. And the thing with that is we saw immediate success just by making it a little bit more engaging, like hiring someone
Mm.
to do the voiceover professionally, adding a little bit of music, putting a little bit of color at the front. And we found immediate success there. The problem with that sort of thing is it can get pretty expensive if you're churning out a whole bunch of videos, right?
Yeah.
So after that, we pretty quickly took it in-house. I used to edit video back in a previous life a little bit. So I kind of took on that role. We built out a little air quote studio here, which is an
Yeah.
old abandoned room where we put some lights and a tripod. So we've really kind of switched to that less produced, more homegrown video, but it lets us put up more volume. And honestly, it feels a little bit more engaging and real nowadays, I think.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what kinds of video content did you start investing in with that? Because I think as you bring down that expectation and barrier and saying, oh, these are all going to be outsourced, highly produced, they all have to
Yeah.
be, a big bang, and you start thinking, no, we can create this quicker ourselves, we can do it inexpensively. But I think that also starts to open the doors to how you start using video, because
Yeah.
you can create stuff that doesn't have to last forever, right?
Yeah, definitely. We've done a lot of that, even for some of our kind of customer marketing. So this isn't external facing stuff at all, but just getting the team on video, thanking a customer, or
Mm,
just saying like happy holidays or happy Valentine's Day, just something to show your face that, hey, we're real people here. Like we want you to be successful and we want to be in partnership with you. That's definitely helped. The other one that we've used on the sales side a little bit more is just personalized videos of someone sitting in that little studio, looking up someone they're interested in talking to, and just sending them a message like a human, not
yeah.
some scripted. Jostle is an internet company that XYC, just a legitimate human connection and reach out. Um, we found that to be pretty successful, and honestly, they're just easier to create, right? You just kind of speak
Yeah.
from the heart rather than reading off a script.
Yeah. Yeah. And so is that something that you're seeing? Do you guys have a dedicated sort of outbound sales development team, or is that stuff that account executives are doing, or how does that work within Jostle?
Yeah, a little bit on the account exec side. It's mostly from our, I use SDR team loosely because it's one SDR on my team,
Yeah.
since we are primarily inbound. But yeah, she's the one who's kind of experimented there and played with it. She's done a ridiculous number of actual personalized videos. I think she cracked 2K recently, over 2,000 videos, which is great.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not always about getting the reply of someone saying, "Hey, that sounds awesome. How can I sign up?" It's getting them to reply and
Yeah.
actually show interest. And then we're top of mind if they ever are looking for something like our solution, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think it's a great point, and part of that is just building that human rapport. To your point,
Totally.
it's now you're not just that person who keeps showing up in their inbox with the same annoying message. You're actually a real
Yeah,
human who's taken the time to record a video, introduce yourself, and there's that empathy factor that comes along with that, and that I think that human connection, which I think a lot of people still miss today, and I think
totally.
it's a big opportunity for those who aren't doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you get the emails all the time in your email box with, "Hey, I know you're busy, but can I have 20 minutes?" And those don't work, right? We all get them. So you have to stand out from that crowd.
Yeah. Are you guys using similar kinds of videos or off the shelf videos as part of your inbound workflow? So as people are coming in, maybe they've engaged in video or not,
Yeah.
but once they've come in, they've raised their hand. Are you now going into sort of an automated nurture? Are you having reps that are following up directly? And are there places where video intersect that workflow?
Yeah, absolutely. More so on the trial side. So
Mm,
we have the traditional book a demo route, but on the trial side, we do send them kind of training videos, but we always implement, we call it like a talking head portion.
yeah.
So someone at the front talking, saying, "Here's why this thing is useful. You should try it," rather than just a click here, click there, do this type approach. I mean, it does have that at the end because we have to show them how to do it. But again, it's building that human touch and showing them why this feature or tool matters. So we've found pretty good success with that. And the other interesting one we haven't done it yet, but we're playing with it is when people book a demo online with us, they book through an online calendar.
Hmm.
We want to direct them to a video of that sales rep.
Yeah.
Just talking to them like, "Hey, I'm looking forward to our demo. I can't wait to meet you." And it just kind of builds that connection right off the jump, which is nice.
Yeah, I've heard others do similar things, and
Yeah,
as you might hope, it's they've typically reported an increase in the show rate, or a
for
decrease
sure.
in the no show rate
Yeah,
for that first call, which can have an important downstream effect. And like you said, it's a little thing, right? It's just
yeah,
simply the autoresponder now actually has putting that rep's face on camera.
yeah,
But it can absolutely go a long way. I like what you talked about of the idea of, I almost think about it as you've kind of got a concierge in your product trial experience.
yeah.
An individual or people that are kind of explaining their way through the product experience to your audience. Can you talk a little bit more about sort of how you guys package and productize that up? Is that something that's done within the product as sort of pop-ups that come out? Are they communications that come out of product via email or things like that? How do you guys actually do that?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both actually, and it's funny you
Mm,
mentioned Concierge because so we call our child the playground because
okay.
it's where you get to go and explore. So we have someone at our company who's the playground supervisor, who's the one who's sending these messages, um, and it's everything from within the product. So messaging is a component of our product.
Mm,
She'll actually go in there and send a link to the video and send that right in there.
mm.
But the bulk of it is through automated emails. But we do kind of keep a consistent voice, a consistent tone all the way through. So it does feel like, hey, this person's helping me through my experience. And if they reach out to that person, which is kind of nice, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and we've seen people that have paired that up with an in-app chat experience, or
Yeah.
even similarly on a website-based chat experience where individuals can interact with what maybe starts as a chatbot but evolves into a real human, and then they
Yep.
actually have video-based content with that real person sharing more information, which provides a much more continuous experience, I think, for end users.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just so much easier to teach someone how to do something through video
Yeah,
rather than opening up a whole nother screen with a bunch of screenshots and it's 10 pages long. It's just an easier medium to really digest.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So putting on that the kind of growth and demand hat, as you
hmm
look at your inbound and outbound programs, where do you suggest people start with when it comes to what videos can have the biggest impact for a company like yours? Is there anything where you've been like, oh, this one video or this specific thing that we did ended up having oversized results that you're really happy that you did or wish you did sooner?
Um, you- so we ran a remarketing campaign that was, I'd say it's almost like a commercial.
Hmm.
Um, so the approach we took was people reacting to the word intranet because that's a common thing, right? Like
Oh,
people
great.
hear
Yeah.
that and they kind of like they turn white, they freak out
Yeah.
a little bit. So we recorded some of the common things we heard, and it was a basic video of what do you think when you hear the word intranet, and then just people acting in it.
Right.
And the thing is, we ran that on LinkedIn, which maybe that's more traditionally like a Facebook type of ad. But our thought there was, hey, we'll run this on LinkedIn. At least it's interesting. It might get people
Yeah.
to watch it. And it's remarketing, so they're already familiar with us. That did quite well. It converted at a way higher rate than kind of the basic text image ads that we were running that say,
Yeah.
hey, book a demo. Hey, come back to the site.
Yeah.
Um, that one was interesting. And honestly, it was just fun to make. Like we made it internally with me and my team acting in it.
Great.
So if you go to our site, you might get hit with that with that video. But that one did quite well. It converted at a way higher rate. So
Yeah, I think some of those things where it's all about just being, approachable and fun
yeah,
and relatable. And I'll share one with you. One of our most successful video campaigns, and this was an organic campaign, not a paid ad, but in a similar vein, we did a parody of Jimmy Kimmel does a mean tweets skit
oh yeah,
on
yeah,
on his show where he has celebrities reading mean tweets about themselves and then reacting to them on camera.
yeah,
And so we did a parody of that when we were launching our new tool for sales reps to help them send videos instead of text-based emails.
yeah,
And we actually had a variety of people, some people from in the market, some people at Vidyard, who on camera, we called it sales fails instead of mean tweets. And they actually read like real sales emails they had gotten that were really bad, right? Those
yeah,
like text-based emails we all know and cringe from. And they would actually read the actual email verbatim and then react to it on camera. And when you actually hear people, do that and see them, it's so much fun, right? And it
yeah,
was shared like crazy because, again, I think it made people laugh. It was super relatable, and it was just very human and authentic, right? And you don't overproduce it, and you do something that just, again, it connects with people in that very relatable way.
yeah, absolutely. And I think it's definitely the human part, and it's also people consume knowledge and info in like little chunks now. That's kind of how we're built and how we've changed.
Yeah,
So it is those short little clips that are going to get looked at and going to get shared. And from that point, maybe then they subscribe and listen to an hour-long podcast or they do a 30-minute demo. But
hmm,
totally, it's those little chunks that catch people. And they're the hardest things to make, I think, to think of the ideas to actually make it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they often come a little bit spontaneous, and I think part of that is
Yeah,
just encouraging that creativity within the team, right, and ensuring that
for sure.
you're not stifling it first and foremost, but also having
Yeah.
an environment where those sorts of things can spawn from creative ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So let's move from the creative to the tech side, and I'm curious
Yep.
to understand how you guys have built out your own marketing and sales tech stack and how video intersects with that. Can you talk a little bit about that and sort of what your foundational platform is as a marketing team?
Yeah, so most of our marketing is run through HubSpot.
Mhm.
We've been with HubSpot for a long time, so the vast majority of things we do run through there.
Yep.
We tie video to that as well to Salesforce. Salesforce and HubSpot, as you know, and most listeners know, they talk back and forth, pass information back and forth.
Right.
So what we do there is the video stats, as in this person viewed this video or they watched this video for this amount of time. They flow into HubSpot and then into Salesforce, so our sales team can get a rough idea of maybe where this potential customer is in their journey and how educated they are.
Hmm.
So those are the ones we're tying together. Other things we use that tie together that aren't really video related is we use Drift as well for live chat.
Yep.
That does have a video component. I know you guys have an integration there as well, but not something we've really explored too much.
Right.
So yeah, it really is mostly HubSpot, Vidyard, Salesforce tying together.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And have you seen any wins, specific things that you can think of where, having that data flowing into the systems has, helped, trigger an action to a hyper engaged
Yeah.
lead that resulted in driving a deal, or great feedback from a sales rep knowing like, hey, I followed up with this person right after they watched these videos. Does anything come to mind as some successes you've seen from that?
Yeah, on the trial side again, for sure. So
Mm,
we have like a little trial hub basically where they can go click through a bunch of videos that train them on kind of the core features. Every once in a while, you'll get someone who watches all 10 videos 100%.
right.
That person's insanely engaged, and you should reach out to them right away.
Yeah.
So just having that information is nice, um, because otherwise you have no clue how engaged. And we've had
Yeah.
instances where the person's watched all these videos and they haven't really done anything in the trial. So if you base it off of product usage and
Yeah.
activity in the trial, you'll think, yeah, this person, they've already gone. So yeah, having that information has been great, and then it triggers us to reach out and have a nice warm dialogue with them.
It's a super interesting idea because I know a lot of companies, and I'll throw ourselves into the ring with that, is have a kind of a product led growth strategy where they're
Yeah,
enabling free trials or free users, and then using product qualified leads where they're actually tracking activities within the product to make basically a virtual hand raise to understand who's most
yeah,
engaged in the product. But I love that idea of having, a complementary set of content within the product itself that people can engage with. And if you can track that content engagement, just like you can product interactions, it gives you a whole other dimension of potentially engaged or, lead or somebody who has high intent within the platform. That's actually a really, really interesting idea.
yeah. It's worked out well for us, and it's one of those things where people go everywhere for information. So you
Hmm.
never really know how educated they are and how much time they've spent, right? Like they could have read 3 dozen reviews on G2 Crowd, but you think they're brand new,
Right.
whereas they know as much about the product as you do at that point. So yeah, any way you can kind of track and understand that, I think super helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, it gives, even for myself, that spawned some ideas because you could start to create video content as part of your trial or your free product
yeah,
experience that's actually geared towards being qualifying content, right? Like of course, it should be educational, but you can actually put your demand hat on and say, what if I dropped a video in here that explained this specific product or feature or something
hmm,
like that? If somebody watched that 2 or 3 minutes long, that would be a great signal of intent or interest, and I could use that to trigger an action.
yeah,
Which I think is actually a really creative approach in this new world where folks are letting people in, right up front into the product and then letting them
yeah.
sort of self-surface. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, like you mentioned with product-led growth and letting people play with the platform first and really explore, that's the
Hmm.
way everything is going. So yeah, I think we're definitely at that point where there's this kind of monumental shift in our
Yeah.
space. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So let me ask you about as you guys look ahead in your
Hmm.
own marketing and sales programs, whether it be specific to video or outside of that, uh,
Yep.
are there any things that you're really excited about as sort of your next foray into how you market and sell to your audience? Any new types of content, technologies, or approaches that you guys are looking at as you go ahead into 2020 and beyond?
Yeah, the other kind of trend that I think is coming back from back in the day is direct mail and like old school sales letters.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. I had a freelance content marketer send me like an old school sales letter, a 2-page sales letter, very well researched, talking about why she'd be a great fit.
Hmm.
If that was a 2-page email, there's no way I read it.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. But because she actually sent me the letter, I sat there and I read it word for word.
Hmm.
So I think that's going to be a trend more on the demand gen side, getting people
Yeah.
interested, making them aware of you. So that's something we definitely want to explore. We've dipped our toe in, but I do think that's going to come back.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's all about this, creating interesting new experiences for target accounts. And back to where we started the conversation, which is it's harder than ever to get their attention, especially with
Totally.
traditional
Yeah.
mediums like email and even social ads are difficult and very competitive. Where any of these sorts of
Yeah.
tactics with personalized videos, really interesting direct mailers. Actually, on one of the recent episodes of Creating Connections, I had a gentleman by the name of Stu Heineck who wrote the book How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. And
Yep.
he had some great ideas. He's a professional cartoonist as well for the Wall Street Journal, and he actually, in his own life as a seller, he would do campaigns where he would actually create a custom comic for a
Oh, wow.
prospect and send it to them, because that was kind of his own unique superpower, right? He could write
Yep.
comics, but he would create a template and then just change out the name for an individual. Print it out on a board and mail it to them. And every time he would get a response and get a meeting booked, because he just got a little bit creative in,
Yep.
how he wanted to reach out to them. And like you said, that physical or tactile medium can, really stand out amongst today's myriad of digital, right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it as well. Like with the rise of marketing automation, it's so easy to send an email to 3,000 people. You
It's
push a
been a
button.
victim of its own success, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So if someone sent me a comic with me in there saying something, I would
Yeah.
respond. So that totally makes sense.
Yeah, I love it. No,
Yeah.
this is great. I think we've covered some really, I think some great ideas across both inbound, in product, and then
Yeah.
as we talk about things like direct mail, outbound as well. Which I think for a lot of companies, all of those are becoming increasingly important, and it's not one, versus the other. It's a complementary approach,
Yeah.
and lots of great ways in which we're now seeing video used across those.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so with that, I wanted to say, thank you very much for joining and sharing your story. For those who want to see a little bit more of the content you guys are creating, for a little bit of inspiration, and
Yep.
to follow you a little bit further, where can they learn more about yourself and Jostle?
For sure. So first off, thanks so much for having me. It's always
Yeah,
great talking to you. So I enjoyed
yeah,
this. So to check out more about Jostle, you can head to our website. It's jostle.me, so not .com, .me. For content that me and my team produce, you can click around there. But we also have a podcast called People at Work. So if you go to Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you get your podcasts, and type in People at Work, you can find us there. And that podcast is more geared to around like culture, HR, internal communication. So if you're interested in that, please give it a listen.
Video has a role to play at every stage of the buyer's journey, offering brands the opportunity to educate leads faster while building a more personal and human connection. And if you offer a free trial or a freemium product, your in-product experience is no different. Video content can be a powerful way to educate new users while also boosting your brand affinity. And if you're using online video platform to track viewer engagement and push that data into your marketing and CRM tools, it can also help you identify your most engaged prospects 1 second at a time. Thanks for joining us on Video in Focus, brought to you by the fine folks here at Vidyard. If you enjoyed the show, give it a like or a share, hit that subscribe button for future episodes, and check out the podcast version now available as part of the Creating Connections podcast series.